Looking for an escape to nature? Ready to embrace wellness? From yoga and detox spa retreats to awakening journeys and corporate team building, let Muse Flower Retreat and Spa be your muse. Whether you seek relaxation, transformation, or a space to hold your own retreat, Muse Flower is here for you. Nestled in peaceful Chiang Rai, Thailand, Muse Flower Retreat and Spa is an all-inclusive sanctuary for healing, learning, and natural living, offering yoga, meditation, wellness, or simply a mindful green space to recharge. You are welcomed. Immerse yourself in holistic retreats and workshops designed to awaken your creative energy. Enjoy organic vegetarian cuisine, spa therapies, and creative workshops, all in a tranquil, eco-conscious setting. Founded by wellness expert Tanya Ho, Muse Flower Retreat and Spa is designed to nurture creativity and well-being. You don't have to be a yogi to feel at home here. Come as you are. Wellness never felt so good. Book your retreat today at Muse Flower Retreat and Spa and use code REN10, that's WREN 10, to get £10 off your first booking. Welcome to the Inquisitive Friend podcast. I'm Sha, your host. Join us as we explore diverse perspectives on the human experience, offering insightful interviews and deep reflections on philosophy, spirituality, psychology, from a bird's eye view on the essence of being. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Friend podcast with me, Sha, your host. And I welcome Susan Owens to the show today. Susan is a numerologist, and I've always been fascinated by numerology. I got into numerology years ago. I can't remember how long ago, but it was quite a while ago. And it's really the study of numbers. It's divination using numbers. Now, as we all know, numbers hold a lot of power, depending on your beliefs, of course. I believe that they do. We can see them. We're connected to different numbers as well. I actually like particular numbers, the way they look, the way they feel as you write them down, weird stuff like that. So I'm quite attracted to numbers. I also chose my therapy practice, 9 Peaches Therapies, because of the 9, which is endings and beginnings. And I mean, that was 20 years ago or so. So numerology has been a part of my life. Now, like all divination, you have to take it as it is. And, I do believe, though, that this is a science. Obviously, numbers are scientific. If they weren't, we wouldn't have equations, we wouldn't have calculations, we wouldn't have formulas. So numbers mean a lot. Now, spiritually, they can represent many things, but Susan is trained in working out your numbers, your life path, your soul path, and all of the things she's going to tell us all about, all of the paths that you can have in terms of your life's journey. And you need someone who has studied this, who's had a lot of people, lots of case studies, who knows a lot about it. So as we know, just like with astrology, you can go online and put your date of birth into anything and get some type of read about it. And with astrology, people are lumped into the 12 signs. Some believe there's a lot more signs than that. So again, the school of thought, wherever you're coming from, you may have different beliefs. That would be the same with numerology as well. So I really wanted to talk to Susan about her journey as well and how she got into numerology and how it can help you. So if you're out there and you're thinking, okay, I've tried everything, you read your horoscope daily, nothing matches, or you're doing all the things, you're doing all the manifesting, the yoga, the meditation, the practices, you're doing it all, but you're still seeking. And my belief is to throw everything at it, throw everything at life, because life throws a lot at us. So why not throw it back at times? Just throw all of it at life. Take what you like and leave the rest. And spiritually, this is a very open platform. This is one of the reasons why I started the podcast, and it's because I wanted people to feel comfortable about expressing, discussing, and sharing their beliefs, because they are beliefs, and everyone will have different beliefs. But on this show, we allow for those beliefs within limits, of course. And I always like to merge the scientific with the spiritual. And what we're finding in my fourth season as we go, which is something I already knew, which is why I wanted to start the podcast, is that there's hardly any space between the two. And on many occasions, on almost all occasions, they overlap. So a good example of that would be crystals. Crystals have a chemical makeup. My dear, dear friend, Michael Granger, scientist, really talented. He's written several books. I will put a link to a couple of them in the show notes. But this is where I learned about the chemical makeup of crystals. And you have to be a scientist to understand those makeups. But in a lot of Michael's books, and one in particular, he does a very good job at outlining, what makes up rose quartz and a lot of different crystals, their chemical makeup, and it's fascinating. They are of the earth. If you can watch anything, if you can see a documentary about people discovering, any anthropological study about crystals, you watch them digging and carving these crystals out, and it's fascinating. But you can almost see the chemicals, as some of the dirt is really sort of deep red, and you can just and I've heard Michael used to talk about the smell of things as they were as they were digging and finding these stones. So numerology is not far off. We have these numbers and they have meanings, and your name. So when you get married, if you change your name, it can change your life for more than obvious reasons. But when you're looking at numbers, then that means your life path number will change, or your journey. I think it's all about that. Susan will have to tell us. So thank you for joining us today. As we get started, I would just say, please click that like button. Join the podcast. Follow us on Spotify, Apple. If you want a subscription, please get one. It's only £2 something a month, but you do get behind the scenes. So I recently uploaded quite a personal video, a lot about my life, the past, and funny stories about, spirituality and how I was developing, and my interactions with priests, which are so comical. Catholic school. I'm bringing this up because when we look at things to help us, we have to go to things that we feel comfortable with. Numerology can help, any type of divination. If you have cards at home, use them, spiritual practices, all those things. For some people, it will be going to church, going to a spiritualist church, or going to your own church, whatever you believe. For some, it will be pulling out your spiritual books, reading them, or your main book, whatever that may be. Whatever it is, you have to have a go-to. And for some people, it's numerology, where they divine and get to see what happens. My life path has, a lot of it I could never have predicted. And that's nice. Who wants to know everything that's going to happen? I don't. Susan's going to talk about life paths, soul paths, and everything else, why numbers can be our superpowers, all of that. So without further ado, I welcome Susan Owens to the show, and here's the interview. Susan, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm happy to be here, Sha. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this interview. I really have. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, wow, me too. Now, numerology, I love it. So let's educate our listeners. There'll be many people listening, watching, who may have heard of numerology, but perhaps they're not quite sure what it is, what it entails. So could you start out with telling us all, what is numerology?
Well, honestly, it's been around. It was our first language. We had numbers before anything, and it's transformed over the years. But anyway, I want to tell you what it is today. And what I use numerology for is numerology's changed my life. Everything has energy, right? So when you think about that, every number has energy. And numerology focuses on numbers 1 through 9. Every number in the universe can be reduced down to those 9 digits, right? So when you understand the energy and the vibration of those numbers, when they are appearing in your life, you can work with that vibration and with those numbers for your greatest benefit, for your greatest achievements, and also a little bit maybe be prepared for maybe there's some challenges coming up. Numbers tell me everything. The most important number, there's a lot of them, but one that carries a lot of weight is the life path number. Now that's when we just add our birth date together. All those digits in your birth date, you add those together, and then you just keep adding until you get a single digit. Now, there's master numbers, but we don't have time today to go into that. But if you've got a 1 digit, whatever that 1 digit is, that tells you what your life path is or what your superpowers are. Now, let me do a shameless plug here. My next book coming out in a couple months is called Know Your Superpowers, Know Your Future. And it's all about what those numbers 1 through 9 and a few master numbers, that what the energy is that they carry, and tells you what your gifts are that you came in with or your superpowers, and then also helps you understand how can you engage those superpowers, how can you use those. And I'm a 3, so I'm a writer, I'm a creator, and I love anything. I'm an artist. I love to do all kinds of things, but I'm settling on writing for now. Anyway, knowing that, I wish I'd known that when I was a child or when I was growing up, that I was a writer. I kind of always liked to write, but I didn't know that was my thing, right? So once I discovered that, I started thinking, okay, let's do this then. Let's work with this. Let's express that more. And I've written 2 books. I'm working on a 3rd. I've got a children's book in my head floating around. And then throughout all that, I've got a memoir I'm going to write, or it's being written as we speak. So anyway, that's a long answer to your very simple question. What's numerology? So anyway, I get carried away with the answers, if you can tell.
No, it's fantastic. And also, we got an exclusive from you. So there's a new book coming out. This is fantastic. You heard it here first, I think. But
well, I'm excited about it. It's a fun book, and it was born out of, let me tell you the other half of it, because the first half is Know Your Superpowers. The second half is Know Your Future. Now, this is the interesting thing about numerology. It not only tells us about our characteristics, our personality, our soul number, numbers that tell us what challenges and possibilities come up in our lifetimes, but it also tells us what year we're in and what personal year it is. So for instance, 2025, which is what this is, 2 + 2 + 5 is a 9. So we're in a 9 year, the end of a 9-year cycle in numerology. So things are going to end, things are going to shift, things will change. There's transformation, a lot of letting go, clean out your closets, your material closets, your metaphysical closets, and get ready for the next 9-year cycle that's going to start in January. So anyway, that's what the book says. That's another part of the book.
Oh, but that's exciting, because you see, I'd never heard, as much as I knew about numerology, I didn't know about the super numbers or the super powerful numbers. I named my practice using numerology, 9 Peaches Therapies. So yes, so I am a huge proponent for numerology. And years ago, 26 years ago now, when I started my private practice, I, did a little thing, and I got the 9 for, transition, new beginnings, endings, all of that. And it's been fantastic for me. So now, how did you become interested in numerology?
Great question. Oh my gosh, Shaw. Well, I've always been interested in metaphysics. Like when I was growing up, astrology was kind of the thing. So I studied that, but not deeply. It just seemed like I had to know so much. And let me say that I'm not putting numerology or astrology down. It is, they go together. Numerology and astrology and even tarot, they all fit together. I call them like a zipper. They just information you can get from all aspects. It really tells you a lot about ourselves. But I found numerology. Read a book. It started with one book, and it just spoke to me, and I couldn't get enough. And then I started reading more books, and then I started studying, and I started doing charts, and I started looking at people. And of course, the best way is to do your own chart, right? Because you're most familiar with yourself, and that's what I did. I started looking at these numbers, and I went, oh, that's what that was. And then I would look at my life history, and I would say, oh, that number appeared when my mother passed. Same number appeared when my dad passed. Same number appeared when I had a car wreck that almost killed me. So it's like there's so much that we can look at in our past. And then, of course, we can apply it to our future with numerology. But that was it. And then that was the thing, because I got so excited. And I thought, before numerology, I kind of let life, I don't know, I was just kind of going along. I mean, I had family, I raised my kids and all of that, but I didn't really get in touch with what was really happening in my life. I know that in a 9-year, we talked about that's a year for endings. Well, a 1 year is a new beginnings. And every 1 year since I've understood numerology, boy, I sit down and I think about what is it I want to manifest for the next 9 years. And in a 2-year, I do the same thing in terms of nurturing those manifestations, those creations, and on and on. Every number has a different vibration. The 3 years a creative year to have a lot of fun. 4 years a good year to write a book or have a project. 5-year things are going to really elevate: freedom, expansion, travel, adventure. 6 years is going to be about home and family. The 7-year, I get to go back inside and really look and see if am I going the right way? Is this what I really want in my life? Ask those big questions. An 8-year, now this is interesting because 2024 was an 8-year. That was the year that I launched my online business. I stepped out as the authority in numerology. I've been doing it for years, but I really, really upped the business and really put myself out in social media and Instagram and all of it and YouTube and everywhere. And so that was an 8-year. That was a good year to do that because the energy was with me to do business. And then a 9-year is, well, okay, what things are going to complete in my life, and then next year I get to start all over again. So it's given me a framework, is the point, is what I'm trying to tell you. It gives me a framework, a paradigm in which I can run my life.
Excellent. And you mentioned astrology earlier, and I was thinking about numerology today, knowing that we were going to be speaking. And I thought, you know what? Okay, so numerology is another form of divination. We know that it goes way back. The ancients, this is all they used to use, really. So, and as well as they had seers and all of that, people divining with rocks and stones and sticks and all of that stuff. It was an amalgamation of different modalities, different things. We still have that today. For the listener, for the viewer out there who's thinking, I'm not sure. I mean, astrology is so broad, and, every Libra's different, every Pisces different, everybody. What would you say to them about, let's focus on life path numbers. So my question is, if there's two people with the same life path number. Does that mean that every Pisces is the same? Does that mean that every life path number is the same? That everything is the same?
Interesting story. I have a best friend that I grew up with. In fact, we lived on the same street. We were. I think I met her we met when we were 5. Okay, both named Susie at that time, and we have the same birth date numbers. Now we don't have the same birth date because when we reduce our numbers down, they're the same. Okay. And I was just talking to her. We've maintained a friendship all these years and gone in and out, you know how you do, but we're really close right now because we're talking about numerology. And everything I come up with, I go, oh my gosh, this is what this was for me. How is that for you? So it's really interesting to talk to someone that not only has the same life path number, but the same birth month, the same birth day, and the same birth year. And because that creates a lot of the same numbers in our chart. The only thing that's going to be different is our middle and our last name, which are different. So that brings in different energy. But I want to answer your question. I was married to a 3. So we were incredibly compatible. And we had a great time together. Life was really good. And we had a great marriage, great divorce, great kids, great all of it. It was all wonderful. And so the compatibility factor is huge when you're putting numbers together. So it was how do I say this? We ended up wanting different things in our life. I don't want to get into my relationship piece, but the point is that they're not all the same because the life path is maybe the same number, so you have a lot of the same characteristics, but your name on your birth certificate is the other piece of information that we gather a lot of information about who you are. And so that brings in different numbers. And in my chart, I have a 7 personality and I have a 3 soul number. Now that's interesting because a 3 is a social, outward focused kind of number. A 7, inward. I want to do research. Just leave me alone, let me read, or let me write. And it's like they kind of conflict, and yet there are times when I really am social and other times when I just need to read. Taylor Swift, by the way, is a 7, and that is the introvert number. Well, she comes out in the limelight, does her thing, and then she goes home and into her peaceful surroundings or harmonious atmosphere, and she writes and creates and does her thing. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities, and then of course there's differences. There's lots of different ways to have differences, just because there's so many numbers that really make up a person in their chart.
Never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button right now. Thank you for your support. You make this podcast possible. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, so that's really interesting about the surname as well. So the answer to that question is no, they won't be the same, but there'll be similarities. Yes.
Right. A lot of compatibility. I think 7s, like I told you, they're kind of I want to say recluse. They really like their alone time. They're intellectual. They do a lot of study. I would say that's the most. I don't want to make it heavy, but they're not really into relationship. That's not a big important thing for them. Like a 6 is all about relationship and family and responsibility, but a 7, no, just the meal. And I met a woman who, I've met lots of 7s, but I had one of my friends that was a 7, and she'd been married forever. And I said, really interesting. Well, he was a 7 too, also. He was a 7 also. And I thought, yep, you both understand your need to be that rejuvenation time. I need my alone time. That's what a 7 really is all about.
But tell us a bit more about life path and how are these numbers grouped? So you've spoken about soul path, you've mentioned life path.
Okay.
How are they grouped and why are they grouped as such?
Well, so when you have, okay, nobody can change your birth date, right? That's the given. That's your birth date. And so that says there's a lot of information we get from just your birth date. The birth month, we're in 3 major cycles in our lifetimes. And I think it would be more now if we really started looking at it because we live so long. I mean, it's always been 3 major cycles. The first major cycle is ruled by your birth month. I was born in August, so my growing up would be 8, would be growing up about learning about money. And it was. I learned a lot about money in that first 30 years of my life, 25, 30 years. And then the middle years are about the birthday, whatever your birthday is. And those are your progressive years, because mostly that's your middle years. So that's your years that you build your business. If you do, you build your career, you do all, you have your children. So that particular number lasts till about 55, 60. And then you have your wisdom years that are ruled by your birth year. And some of them, they're ones, okay, if you had a 1 in your senior years, your wisdom years, likely you're going to be a leader and independent, and that may even mean that you're going to be alone in your senior years. Doesn't have to be, but you'll be a leader. A 2 means that you will always have a relationship that's really important for you, and that's in those senior years. A 3 means, which is my birth year comes down to a 3, which tells me my senior years are going to be wonderful. They're creative and enjoying, and truly, that's exactly what's happening. I'm loving my writing. I'm loving the conversations and the fabulous people I get to meet. And it's been an extraordinary time. A 4-year means you're going to work. You're not going to quit working. You're just going to work. And sometimes it means because you have to, and other times it means no, I love my work. I'm going to continue to do it. 5 means lots of change, lots of adventure, lots of travel. A 6 means you'll always have your family around you in your senior years. A 7 means that's the time when you give back. All your life you've studied maybe, and you've learned and expressed things, and now it's a time to give back. And 8 means you're going to have money, or you're going to learn about money. But in senior years, hopefully you figured out the money thing, and you're going to be able to have lots of it and enjoy it. Usually that's what that means. And if you have a 9, that means it's time to give back to humanity in your senior years. You've had a whole lifetime of building your career or doing whatever, and then you get to your senior years are about service. So every number brings in so much information, and like I said, that life path number is a large part, but there's so much that we get from the birth date that's not just that life path number. So it adds a lot, because there's numbers that transit your chart as well, that change in as little as, well, every year, and as little as and up to 9 years and more.
So life path, just so we all understand, life path is very different from the soul path.
The soul number is, now this is fun, because that comes from your name. Okay, the soul number comes from your name, and that's the number that we get when we add all the vowels in your name together. Okay, now we haven't really talked about this because we keep talking about the birth number, the birth date, but there's numbers like Susan. My name, Susan, is, I was born Susan, but I didn't have an 8 in my name. Every letter is attached to a number. Every number has 3 letters, except 9. But so, for instance, a number 1 are the letters A, J, and S. Okay, so when I look at my name, Susan, that was what I was born. It totals up a master number 11-2. And I look at that, and that tells me very intuitive, which, yes, I've had a lifetime of really learning that. Most of my adult life, I've had real strong intuition and psychic and mediumship abilities. So I changed that number now. This is interesting. The birth date name, the name on your birth certificate, that is the number that we use, because that's the name that we use, because that's the name, that's who you came in to be, right? But women especially, but men too, change their name. I put that Z in there because I didn't have an 8 in my name. So my nom de plume is Susan with a Z, because I wanted that 8 in there for the business, the prosperity, the achievement. That 8 is all about entrepreneurship and all that. So I put that in there. But so the name carries every name carries a little bit of different weight. The first letter in your name, which actually we share that S, right? So that first letter, that is your rational thought number, and that's a cornerstone number. That kind of gives you some information. And as an S, that says we've got some leadership abilities, we're independent, we people look to us for answers, we're innovative. That's that 1 number. So there's lots of information, like I said, we can get out of the birth date and our name on the birth certificate.
And I suppose that's why, too, when people change their name through marriage or divorce, even, I suppose, their lives can change. The trajectory of their lives can
Absolutely. Change. Absolutely, because it brings in new energy. Like we said, every number has energy. So it doesn't change who you were meant to be in this lifetime, but it brings in different energy. I was not born Susan Owens, but Owens is another master number. It's a 22-4 number, and I've been Owens for most of my 40 years, so I'm keeping it. I like it. I probably won't change it ever. I don't know why that I would change it, and because it's good numbers also. So yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of information, and when you pay attention to all those the different ways, and we can't even get into all of the other information about the essence chart that can change every year, or you can have a 9-year cycle in it. It just depends on where the numbers and letters appear. So that's kind of complicated to talk about, but anyway, so it's not just the birth path. That's that thing I was right. The life path. It's not just a life path number, although that's a big number that carries some weight.
But you see, this is why I wanted to speak with you, because there'll be people out there thinking, oh, well, I'll go online and I'll look it up and I'll do my own. But actually, okay, you can do all that, but you're not going to know everything. So you really do need someone like you, Susan, who has studied this for years, who has lots of experience in working with people, who has done these charts for many, 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 many people, and who will know without looking it up exactly what's happening. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely. And the other thing that's kind of cool with the Sha is that when I'm doing charts, which I absolutely love to do charts, because I learn something all the time. I'm always learning. I don't ever pretend to say I know all of it. But what's really cool is a lot of times there's information that comes through that's not written down anywhere, and that I feel compelled to say it. And it's life-changing for most people. They understand, oh, okay, yeah, that's not written down, but boy, is that the truth of who I am, and guidance for the future. So yeah, there's a lot more than what you can find out online or just to do your own chart. And you don't have the way, you can find out what your numbers are, but you don't know what that means. It's like, I'm not sure who's in my 11th house, but I wouldn't know if it were Leo, or if it were Saturn, I don't know what that means. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So you can have a 9 life path and know that that's what it is, but maybe you don't know what that means. So yeah, I'm all for finding out the wisdom. I have an astrologer that I love, and I work with her, and so it's really fun. I don't pretend to know all about astrology, and I love getting the information, and it fits into my life too, into my numbers, definitely.
Wonderful. Yes, but you do know about numerology, and so it would help if somebody just went to you, go to you, have your chart properly done. It's the same as, rather than reading your horoscope in the paper or online, go to an astrologer and just get it all done. And then you could also look at their life path, their soul path, all of the paths that we don't know anything about.
Right, because there's, like I said, there's a lot of information about it, and it fits. I haven't ever done a chart for anyone where they say, "Well, that's not me." Now, this is interesting though. We have free will, right? So I mentioned master numbers a couple of times. Now, I said we weren't going to get to talk about that, but let me tell you this little tidbit. A master number, say for instance 11-2, if that's what your numbers total out, then 11, if you add 1 plus 1 is 2, so that's why we get the 11-2. But it's a higher vibration of the number 2 when there's two the same digit, when it's an 11. And 11 is a spiritual messenger, which means that I want to say it's a gift from the heavens. That you have this intuitive ability that is a direct connection to the divine. And people choose out. They can't do it. And we have free will. So you don't have to do that spiritual path if you don't want to. And then you have that 2 energy that your life is built around, if that makes sense. So that's, to me, it's a major gift. Not everybody has them. I've done many charts without a spiritual or without a master number in them. And yes, it's a gift. It really is a gift. But it's also a responsibility if you want to take it on. And because the spiritual messenger is service to humanity. You're here to raise consciousness. A 22-4, if your numbers total 22-4, that's all about a master builder. You have a legacy to create. Now, that's not an easy thing to do. And that's maybe too much for people. It just may be. And 44-8, oh boy, that's major contribution, global, universal kind of contribution. A 33-6, that's the, I want to say Earth Mother, the great caregiver, the nurturer, healer, very strong spiritual healer. So this is cool, Sha, because I don't usually get to talk about spiritual numbers like that, the master numbers. So it's a pleasure for me to get to share that information. It's high level. It's definitely high level numerology. People don't understand it.
Let's take a quick break from the show. And if you're enjoying today's episode of the Inquisitive Rin podcast, we'd love your support. Leaving a review, hitting that like button, and subscribing on your favorite platform not only helps us grow, but also ensures you never miss an inspiring conversation. Your comments mean the world to us. They spark new ideas, they connect us with incredible guests, and keep the energy flowing. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or watching on YouTube, or listening on your favorite platform, take a moment to share your thoughts and spread the word. Together, we're building a community that celebrates curiosity, growth, and transformation. Thank you for being a part of the Inquisitive Rin. Now, let's dive back into today's episode. No, I know, which is why I wanted to speak with you, because it's very powerful, and we're just privileged to have you on. So, but so much wisdom, so much knowledge, which brings me to the issue of, I suppose when you have this kind of knowledge, rather than just sitting on it, why not put it in a book? So let's talk about your book. Now, your first book, because I know there's other bits coming on the way. You've told us about, there it is. I will put a picture as well up within it. Numerology, that's it.
Thank you.
Tell us about the book. How did you come to write it? Did you feel drawn to do it, guided, led?
Yes, absolutely. I have hundreds of books. You can see part of my bookcase, one of them, but I have hundreds and hundreds of books. I love books and numerology books. And like I said, it started with one, and I just kept reading. And some are encyclopedias, and some are children's books, basically. So for me, I never found a book like this one. And what this book is It's clear, concise, and easy to find. So for instance, if you want to know that if you're a Destiny 3, okay, well then you turn to page 40 and there it is. And it's a paragraph. So you don't get the whole story. If you want to know more, you can sure find out more. But it just gives you 2 minutes or 3 minutes of information, because that's pretty much all we have time for anymore. So I was really proud to say that I won an award. It was on the cover awards. The Coalition for Divination Arts was the cover award, Visionary Arts. And this was pretty powerful. It's a funny story, but a pretty powerful award for me to win on my first book. And I didn't write I didn't write a first draft. I wrote this as it is, which was really challenging. But the point is that it was a book that I felt compelled to write because I hadn't found one. It was one that I thought the universe needs this. And it was so good for me. You think you know things, write a book, right? Write a book. And then you really know things. That's the best way to do it. If you really want to know something, teach it. There you go. That's the way to learn something for sure. So, and I loved it. And I, again, found out I'm a writer. I'm a better writer than I thought I was. And now I can't stop. There's, everything is a new idea for a book. So I have to be careful.
Yep. Now, with wisdom of numerology, gosh, I want to say so much. I have so many questions. I'm stumbling. So with this book, what will people gain? What's the first thing? Why should they buy this book?
Because it teaches you how to calculate your numbers. From the very first part, it'll tell you what your life path is, how to calculate your life path, how to calculate if you've got a master number, and it tells you in detail, clear and concisely, how to calculate the rest of your chart, because your destiny number comes from your name. And the book will explain in detail how to assign a number, which number goes with which letter in your name, how to add them up, how to separate it from your soul number and your personality number, and then how to add them up and get a maturity number. This number is the one that pretty much kicks in about mid-30s. There's a maturity that happens. You know this. There's a maturity that happens about the mid-30s. Well, there's a number there that also comes into our lifetime, and that gives us another trajectory, if you will. So there's that, and then even in the back, there's a high-level calculation on our essence chart. So it's really, again, I've not found a book with the calculations in it the way they are, as well as the information written as clearly and concisely as the way I write it. I guess I'm saying. But anyway, I think it's one of the best books out there, just because I think I like what I say about numerology. I've read a lot. I've learned a lot. There's other people that I don't pretend to know everything, because there's just so much to know. I will tell you something, though. I did find out a psychic friend of mine that I've known for years. She said, Susan, you've taught numerology before. And I said, oh, absolutely. I had to have. She said, you taught the ancients. You taught this years ago. You taught the Magi numerology and astrology. She told me, and I thought, well, that's interesting. But numerology, it was so easy for me to learn. That's the thing, Sha. And I think that's something, when you've got something that just speaks so loudly to you, that's, there was never a block to it. It just keep coming. The flow. My life flowed. My life changed. Everything about it. Yes, fabulous.
I mean, it really does emanate through the screen. People watching this now will see your passion for this. They will feel it and see it, because this is inner wisdom, inner knowledge.
It is. It really is. And I had a session years ago with psychics and doing mediumship. I learned how to do that. That wasn't something I ever thought I would do, and it was wonderful. And it expanded. It was in a 5-year, truly, that I started talking to dead people and really connecting to my psychic abilities. And that's what a 5 year is all about: expansion, freedom, new understandings, leveling up. So those numbers, those life numbers, those personal year numbers, and the 9 year cycle, absolutely the truth of exactly what's going on. The last time, this is interesting, the last 9 year was 2026. And I did the Camino. That was the year that I walked across Spain.
Not in 2026 yet. Was it 2016?
2016, because that was a 9 year. And I always said I was going to do that before I turned 60. So that I was running out of time. Anyway, so I did the Camino, and I was in the cathedral in Lyon, and which I tried to go into as many cathedrals and churches because that's what you do as a pilgrim. And I walked in and I burst into tears. I sat down and I just sat and cried. And I realized at that moment that I had been a pilgrim in a previous lifetime. And I'm guessing he was a he because women didn't do this, but he didn't finish. And it was really, really important for me to finish. And I did. I walked all the way to Santiago. And it was really important for me to finish this for him as well. And that was a 9 year. A 9 year is all about completion. And I didn't know that when I started. I just knew the first time I ever heard about the Camino, I knew it was a knowing that I was going to do it. Not that I wanted to do it, but I understood that it was something I was going to do. And so that's every year there's something that's compelling in that year to do. And a 7 year, I did, it's a vision quest year because it's an internal year, right? I did a whole weekend with Gary Zukov and that whole life, the quantum learning and all of that. Anyway, I can go on and on. But every year there's some energy that really explains what that year's about for you.
So exciting. Now, something skipped my... Oh, yes, I'm back to it. When you speak, the energy is very full. That's what I'll say. So I am taking it all in and thinking at the same time, which sometimes doesn't match because I'm feeling it energetically and then trying to think. So when you were talking about the Magi and you having been in that position, really, in another lifetime, it was very powerful, very, very powerful. What you're talking about psychically, metaphysically, spiritually as well, will resonate with so many people. And I'm glad you mentioned the psychic part because I think numerology is a really good way, and I wonder what your thoughts are about this. It's all right to sit in front of a psychic or a medium and we tell people this and that. But when the analytical people come to you, when the super analytical, super subconscious, super picky, super pedantic people come to you and say, well, can you show me? Well, numerology is a way, I believe, that you can put something in front of them and say, look, let me show you. Here are the numbers. This is how they add up because it's maths. You cannot defy that. And so there you go. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, what's interesting about that is that the 7 is the most metaphysical number because they're the ones that do the research. They're the ones that want to do the study. So they're also the most, what's the word? Skeptical. They want show me the truth, so that's and truly, the Sha, there's some people that you're not going to change. There's just no way. That's just not going to happen. But I give me your birth date, just give me your birth date and let me talk to you. And I can tell you, growing up, there's a lot of loss in your life. If you had a 9, if you're born in September, that's a 9. That means that's a life of loss left, not a lifetime, but the first third of your life, so to speak, is going to be learning through a lot of loss. That's usually what that means. Okay. So I can tell them, just give me a number and let's talk about that. And I can show them some of the things. And again, there are going to be some, it doesn't matter what you say. But there are others that'll start, I got some frowns in terms of, well, now let me think about that. So yeah, and it's not my job to convert anybody, that's for sure. I just know this works for me, and that's why I have the energy on it. Again, this has changed my life. Like I said, without it before, I was just kind of, well, okay, let's do this. This might be a good idea. And had I known what the numbers were, it was like, wow. And I don't say negative things. I don't. I will always say, oh my gosh, this is great, this is great, this is great. Because there's no bad numbers. You know that. There's nothing bad, negative about numbers. But there are numbers that are can be challenging, right? So like I told you, I had this number that shows up when my parents passed, when I was a car wreck. So I know there's numbers that I can look at a chart and say, yeah, you've got some challenges. It's going to be a challenging time. But also with those challenges, it's life lessons. You're going to come through it a different person. And that's the positive spin, if you will. I'll put on things that just say, it's not for nothing. It's not just going to be a horrible time. There's going to be potential in there for you to learn and grow and do what you need to do in your lifetime. Because you know that when you lose a parent, there's life growth. There just is. It's like when you have a baby, there's life growth. That kind of thing. So,
Susan, I think this is a science. This is a science. Is there research being done to support it?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. That would be interesting to find out if there is, because somebody talked to me, speaking of what's the word? Somebody asked me about jury selection. I was talking to an attorney, right? Now, if there's somebody that's not, we want it all written down, right? But we were talking about, he said, well, I said, yeah, there's definitely personality types. Do you think you could do jury selection? And I said, yeah, I think that would be an interesting thing to study. I mean, seriously, I'm not on it. That's not my thing. But wow, wouldn't that be fascinating to put numerology into jury selection? I absolutely think there's something to that. So yes, I think there's lots of ways to apply numerology to people's lives and to science. And really, yep, I could see it being done. For me, this works. It's like, this is my life. This is true. I'm as real as it gets. This is my life,
Absolutely. And we're lucky that you are sharing the information that you acquired spiritually, mentally, metaphysically, however people see it or want to label it. You're sharing this a lot. So I know we're coming towards the end of the interview, but I just wanted to ask you a little bit about, if people are out there and they're thinking, right, I keep getting into the wrong relationship, my career is just not working out, I don't know, I've got family issues, whatever, or health issues, mental health. Let's think about everything that's out there now on the internet that's big and bright letters. All of those things are. And they think, oh, well, I'll just try it as a last resort. Because many people come to therapy, they come for mediumship as a last resort. They will even say, look, I've tried everything. I might as well do this. Which I appreciate. I appreciate that they're saying it. So they may say, well, you know what, numerology, haven't tried that yet. I might as well. What would a takeaway be for them if they come along to try numerology for the very first time?
I would be able to explain some of the things that happened in their lifetime. I could look at their life chart, because there's a life chart, 99 years. And I can look at this chart and I go, what happened when you were 19? What was going on then? And because that number would show up as, it could be a strong life lesson number. And they'd say, oh, yeah, that was when blah, blah, So I can explain what patterns maybe, not just maybe, but patterns in their lifetime that they've done. And understand. And I think there's an element of understanding your life when you understand what your strengths and your gifts are and what your challenges are. Well, so I have a number in my my chart. One of my challenges is a 5, which means, oh, let's do this. Let's go change it. Impulsive. And hopefully at my age I've kind of managed that a little bit better. But used to be a rolling stone. I just get on a plane and I just go. I wouldn't know where I was going, but I didn't matter where I ended up, and I would just go, which was fabulous, right? But I had to stop. I had to stop and ground myself. So what I'm saying is that looking at this numerology chart for people, yeah, I can explain why maybe you had some relationship issues because it shows up in your chart. I have a dear friend in my lifetime that has a lot of 8 in her chart. And if you have an 8 as a life path, either you're really good at money or you really aren't. And life will bring you lessons so that you learn how to be good with money. So it feels like that 8's working with you because you're making money, you're doing well, or it feels like it's working against you because you just can't figure it out. So that tells people a lot of information about who they are. So I get people that come to me in life-changing situations. My career, like you said, my career is not what I want. I keep giving my phone number to the wrong guy. It's not that they keep meeting the wrong guy because they're going to just always show up. They just give them their phone number. Don't give them the right one, right? I mean, there's that explanation there. Or they want something different. They don't feel like their life is fulfilling for them. And so they will come to me and say, okay, Susan, read my chart. Let me know what's my next step. What's my life really about? And I can tell them the numbers. I don't know them. I read the numbers and I say, this is what I see. This is what I see. And they're astounded at how much information that matches their life. And I said, I don't know you, but here it is. This is the numbers. So I had a dear friend. She comes to me every year. I've got a few that come every year and just get an update. And I was so pleased because she said she was working in a lounge and it was not fulfilling. And I said, you stop that. As soon as you stop, everything's going to come to you. You shift out of that. And it did. A year later, she said, I'm doing this now, Susan. It's so much better. Life is so much better. I told one guy, I said, go after your PhD. It'll serve you. It'll be bigger. It'll open up more doors than you think it would open up. It's not just about the credentials. It was really fun. It's totally fun to tell people to read their numbers just because it's like, well, this is what I see. And again, free will, choose it or not. It's a blessing to be able to do the chart. That's where I come down to.
It's all about free will. I can only say that I'm a huge proponent for numerology. I did a 2nd degree based on numerology. It was successful. So I've used it throughout life and it really has helped me as well. Again, it's a tool. It's another tool. And as you've so succinctly stated several times, free will. You always have free will to accept it, to act upon it or not. And you have to accept responsibility for your own choices out there. So,
yep, we're the only ones that really are running our lives. I mean, you can't force something on someone, or no one forces things on you unless you let them. So that's my true belief on life. So yeah, it takes two. And the thing about, I can get back to this, with my life in numerology, it's filled my life. It's filled my soul to a place where it feeds me, if that makes sense. The wisdom that I get from it and all the things that it brings into my life. I had no idea when I wrote this book that I was going to get to do and meet all these people that I've met and get to talk about it like I have. I'm going to Australia in March. Yay! And it's a 3 months, so it's a great month to have a good time. So I'm going to Australia, and I have thought, well, that'll be interesting, So there's so many things that numerology has brought into my life, and it's because it's not like I feel like I'm in control, because that's not what it is either. It's working with the divine. It's working with my guidance, my intuition, and creating a life that I love. I've never been happier, truly.
And I love that you made that distinction as well towards the end, that it's not that, it's this, because people will have their own ideas. But Susan, this has been fascinating. It's incredible. The links to everything, the link to your book will be in the show notes. Go and follow Susan on all social media. I will put all the links in the show notes. Let her know you've seen the episode. And also let Susan know what you think of the episode. You may have questions for her. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer some questions in the comments.
Wisdom and I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, you can reach out on my website, wisdomandnumerology.com, or wisdomofnumerology@gmail. Send me an email real quick if you want to just start something there. I do readings, obviously, and let me know. I love it. Thank you so much, Sha, for saying that, because yes, please. I love a communication. You can tell that already.
I can, but also you bring up a good point. So, yes, you do readings, but is there anything else coming up? You just mentioned Australia. Are you providing courses or where people can learn, or seminars? What's coming up? What's on there?
Thank you for that. I do have a class. I haven't, I've got a 4-hour video on the basics of numerology that is available for sale. And it's, I think, $99. It's not even that much. If you want to learn how to do that, send me an email real quick and I'll give you the connection to that. So, and then I told you I've got another book coming out, and more podcasts, more interviews, and I hope to be hitting the stage. I would love to talk about this with thousands of people. I just would love it. It would be so much fun. So we'll see where it all goes, Sha. Invite me back sometime. I would love to come back.
You kidding? I can't wait. I'm already thinking, when's the next book out? I'm trying to rush you to get it done But I think we could have a really good discussion around how you teach, what you teach. But I mean, that course for $99, I mean, that's amazing. That's less than half of what you'd spend on, coffees for a few months. That's fantastic. And it's a way to, it's a reasonable way that people can get started with this, because it will enrich your life. I can say it's helped to enrich mine. You are obviously a walking example of how that happens as well. I'm so drawn to the purple chair in the back, because the purple and the violet ray is just so strong with you, and that healing, violet, the healing, the calming, the nurturing part is just flowing through the screen. So we are very lucky to have you sharing this information with the world, and I feel very privileged to have you on the podcast today. So, Susan, thank you so much for joining us. I do hope you come back.
I will, absolutely. You ask, I'm there. And this has been such a blessing for me too, Sha. Thank you. I've loved every minute.
Oh, so have I. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Inquisitive Rin podcast. I hope you found it insightful. If you did, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who might enjoy it too. Don't forget to share it on social media. It really helps us reach more people who resonate with our content. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the show. It's the best way to stay connected and help our Inquisitive Ren community grow. I'd also love to hear from you. Leave a rating and a review to let me know your thoughts, and be sure to follow so you never miss the latest episodes or behind the scenes content from the Inquisitive Ren. Thanks again, and as always, stay curious.